Hello, dear readers. Gather around and prepare yourselves for a chilling tale that will make your heart race and your spine tingle. Tonight, I will share a story of suspense and terror, a true account of an ordinary man encountering a suspicious character in the eerie woods of Oregon. Hold on to your seats, for this is a story you won't soon forget. It was a crisp autumn evening in 1984 when David Mitchell decided to take a walk through the forested trails near his home in the outskirts of Portland, Oregon. The leaves crunched under his boots, and the air was thick with the scent of pine and earth. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the path, David felt a chill that had little to do with the dropping temperature. David was a creature of habit, and his evening walks were a ritual he seldom missed. But tonight felt different. There was a stillness in the woods that set his nerves on edge. The usual rustle of small animals and the distant calls of birds were absent, replaced by an eerie silence. As he rounded a bend in the trail, David noticed a figure standing just off the path, partially obscured by the trees. The man was tall, dressed in dark clothes, with a hood that cast a shadow over his face. David's heart began to pound as he quickened his pace, hoping to put a distance between himself and the stranger. "Hey there!" the man called out, his voice smooth and unnervingly calm. "Beautiful night for a walk, isn't it?" David forced a polite smile and nodded, not breaking his stride. "Yeah, sure is," he replied, his voice betraying a hint of unease. The man stepped onto the path, blocking David's way. "Mind if I join you?" he asked, his eyes glinting in the fading light. "Actually, I'm just heading home," David said, attempting to step around him. The man's hands shot out, gripping David's arm with surprising strength. "I insist," he said, his tone now menacing. Panic surged through David as he yanked his arm free and broke into a run. The forest seemed to close in around him, the trees like silent sentinels watching his desperate flight. Behind him, he could hear the man's footsteps, heavy and determined. David's breath came in ragged gasps as he pushed himself harder, the path a blur beneath his feet. He knew these woods well, knew the shortcuts and hidden trails, but in his fear he found himself disoriented, unable to think clearly. Suddenly he burst into a small clearing, illuminated by the pale light of the rising moon. He glanced around frantically, looking for a place to hide. His eyes fell on an old, abandoned cabin, half hidden by overgrown foliage. Without hesitation, he sprinted towards it, praying that it would provide some refuge. He threw open the door and slammed it shut behind him, sliding the rusty bolt into place. The cabin was dark and smelled of mildew and decay. David pressed his ear to the door, listening intently. The footsteps had stopped. For several agonizing minutes, there was only silence. Then a soft, almost imperceptible tapping at the door. David's blood ran cold. The man was toying with him. Come out, wherever you are," the man's voice sang softly, chillingly close. David's mind raced as he looked for a weapon, something to defend himself with. His hands closed around a heavy, rusted pipe lying in a corner. He gripped it tightly, his knuckles white. The door shook as the man began to pound on it with increasing force. The hinges groaned, the wood splintering under the assault. David backed away, his heart hammering in his chest. With a final deafening crash, the door burst open and the man stepped inside. His hood had fallen back, revealing a face twisted with a sadistic grin. David swung the pipe with all his strength, the metal connecting with the man's head with a sickening thud. The man staggered, then crumpled to the floor, blood pooling beneath him. David didn't wait to see if he was still alive. He bolted from the cabin and ran through the woods until he reached the safety of his home. He called the police, his hands shaking as he recounted the night's events. When the authorities arrived at the cabin, they found the man gone, leaving only a trail of blood leading deeper into the forest. Despite an extensive search, he was never found. David moved away shortly after, unable to shake the feeling of being watched, of the shadow in the woods that had nearly claimed him. To this day, he doesn't walk in the forest alone. And so, dear readers, our tale comes to an end. As you sit in the comfort of your home, remember the chilling encounter that took place in the Oregon woods. The strange man with his menacing presence may be closer than you think, lurking in the shadows, waiting for his next moment to strike. Stay vigilant, keep your doors locked, and always be aware of your surroundings. Sweet dreams, if you dare.